Hey, this is H&G Adventures, and this is an intro to Battletech. And yeah, that's what we'll be playing on Tuesdays from here on out. All right. So, take 2 on intro to Battletech for all intents and purposes. We tried to do this once before. We had an overhead camera, and it's almost impossible to get any proper view of what the mechs are individually on the overhead view, so we're going to try this again from here. Battletech, it's a tactical combat game. It is broken into 3 turns: initiative, movement, and gunnery. On initiative, you roll the dice to determine who moves first and who shoots first. When you move, you have 3 forms of movement. Most mechs have 2 forms of movement. Others have an additional form of movement called jumping. You can walk or you can run. Your movement is determined by your mech. The sheet of paper that you have there has a movement score in the upper left corner right there. That is the walking speed, the running speed, and the jumping speed. Walking is what is determined by the engine. Running speed is 1.5 times the walking speed rounded up. And jumping speed can be equal to your walking speed, but no more. Once you have determined the initiative by rolling 2 dice, and whichever team has the higher 2 dice, higher roll on 2 dice, has the initiative, and the other team usually moves first. This is usually because if you're playing one mech, then the opponent's mech moves first. If you are playing...
Camera went off.
That's not a big deal. That's just the way the cameras are. That doesn't keep playing. If you tap it on the back, it'll come back on.
Fair enough.
If you're playing multiple mechs against each other, one mech will move last. You will not move 2 mechs on your team as a end. There will always be one mech moving on the opposite team last. So if it's 2-on-1 and this mech wins initiative, both of them move, and then this one moves. If they win initiative, one of them moves, this mech moves, the other one moves. That way you don't get really badly screwed up on initiative. So walking speed. Your walking speed is in hexes. Each turn, left or right, takes up 1 point of movement. There are quad mechs which can crab walk as well as moving forward and backwards. Crab walk is a special movement for exclusively quad mechs and I think some hovercrafts. Since we are not playing vehicles, we're going to stick with the mechs. So you've got movement, and each hex takes 1 point of movement. Each facing change takes 1 point of movement. Lightwoods, we're using this light green tile for lightwoods. They take an additional point of movement to move into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but not to move out of 1, 2, 3. Heavywoods take an additional 2 points of movement to move into, but not out of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Mountains. Anytime you change elevation, it costs you an additional movement point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an elevation change up and an elevation change down. Mechs can climb up to 2 levels without jump jets. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So after that, you cannot, without jump jets, climb a level 3 mountain without having climbed a level 1 first. Water. Water costs 1 additional movement point to get into 1 additional point to get out of, and 1 additional point to move through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gunnery skills. I think we've gotten movement pretty well taken care of there, except for jumps. Jump jets completely ignore all of the pluses. If this jump movement or mech jumps 5, it can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jumping makes it harder to be hit and harder for you to hit. And it also makes it possible to get into all those tight spaces that maximize your defensive value. So that's basically movement.
Defensive value for movement.
Defensive value for movement. Okay, so let's start with the offensive. When you walk, it makes it 1 or +1 to hit. When you run, it is +2 to hit. When it is 3, when you jump, it is +3 to hit. So defensive value is going to be dependent upon how far you move. If you move 1 hex, you get no defensive value out of it at all. If you move 2 hexes, you get none at all. 3 hexes get you +1, plus the light woods in this case, but we'll discuss that in a moment. So you need to move at least 3 hexes to get any defensive value. At 5 hexes, it becomes +2. At 7 hexes, it becomes +3. At 10 hexes, it becomes +4. If you jump that far, you get an additional 1 on top of that. So if you jump 10, you're at +5 to hit. So, it's useful, but jumping 10 also generates a ridiculous amount of heat. We will discuss heat during the combat. And that is the movement. I believe we got that movement pretty well taken care of.
Yeah, defensive value from different terrain features.
Okay. If you are standing behind a level 1 mountain, you are directly behind it. They cannot see your lower legs. That is effectively called a hold down, and it is +3 for them to hit you. If you can see all of them, then it's not +3 for you to hit them. So, yeah. I've seen other rules in other books that say it's only a +2 modifier instead of a +3 from water hexes, but they give you instead a bonus, a stability bonus to fire back at your opponents, so it's easier for you to hit them. I prefer the just +3 rule, because if it's going to be that hard to hit you, or if they're going to have a 1 in 6 chance of taking the mech's head off anyways, I have always felt that it shouldn't be +2. It should certainly be +3. Okay, combat.
Oh, still talking about terrain features. That was just hold down.
That's hold down. We've got
woods.
Woods.
Water, which you just basically covered with hold down.
Well, water is, treated as hold down. Woods. If you are standing in light woods, that counts as +1 modifier. If a mech has to look through 1 light woods and into your light woods, each light woods counts as a +1 modifier. A mech can see into, but not beyond, +3. These mechs cannot see each other. Here's a fun one. Heavy woods are +2 modifier to fire. So if it was here, it would be from him to him. It is +2 to hit the locust. This being the locust.
But the locust doesn't have any.
And the locust has no pluses to hit the what is that? Shadowhawk. I think it's a Shadowhawk. If the locust is here, the Shadowhawk cannot see the locust, as 2 heavy woods is +4. On the other hand, the Shadowhawk can see, or the locust can see the Shadowhawk, because he only has to shoot through the 1 heavy woods at +2. We covered water. Water being very simple, partial cover +3 to hit.
And heavy water, you're in over your head.
Deep water means the mech is effectively not on the field for anybody not standing on top of them. Jeez, Jerry's getting annoying. Gunnery skills. Each weapon has its own range. If you look at the sheets that we've been printing off, you can see that there are different weapons, and each weapon has its own range and heat. The mechs have heat sinks to dissipate heat. When you get beyond those, there's a chart on the lower corner of the thing that tells you how far above you've gotten. If you have gone up heat every round for a couple of rounds, you continue climbing that chart. There are points on that chart at which the pilot can go unconscious, at which ammo will explode in the mech, and at which there's minuses to fire and piloting skill. Movement speed.
And then shut down.
And eventually the mech will shut down all on its own. Okay. That's heat. Damage. When you actually succeed in hitting the mech, past the heavy woods and the light woods and the hull down and anything else, the damage is applied first to the external armor. That is the large boxes on the top. If you hit him in the arm and you do X amount of damage, it goes to the external arm armor, and then it goes from there to the internal arm armor. If you look in the center of the sheet, you will see a diagram with a couple of arrows pointing towards the inside of the mech.
Not on the sheet.
It's not on that sheet?
Mm.
It isn't? Usually.
No, it's the one that I printed up, so the arrows aren't there.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You'll see that means any damage that goes past the arm's internal structure gets transferred to the external structure of the associated torso. Once it does that, the associated torso takes damage. Once that is destroyed, the arm is considered blown off even if it is not destroyed. Then it goes to the center torso. Once it's in the center torso, that's the final readout of any mech. Some mechs have what is known as XL engines, and blowing the torsos off can shut the mech down. Once the mech has 3 engine hits, whether it's from internal damage to the center torso or the left or right torsos, the mech is shut down. They have, on the inside the center torso, there is a gyroscope. 2 hits to the gyroscope shuts the mech down. Removing both the mech's legs takes it out of the fight, but does not effectively shut it down.
You can fire from prone.
You can fire from prone,
Plus
but
2.
we're removing them from the game. Because I don't want to sit there and stomp on mechs just because. So once the mech's legs are both gone, we are removing them from the game.
Honestly, if your legs are both gone, you should be leaving the mech.
Indeed. Okay, so that's...
Firing. How do you figure out what you need to hit somebody?
Okay, so you start with the gunnery skill. Each mech has a gunnery skill. I don't know whether you put it on there.
It's not on there. They're blank because the pilots go up.
This one's got a gunnery skill on it. And it's the right gunnery skill.
Yes, it is. It's 4.
So if you look at the top, you'll see a gunnery skill and a piloting skill. Gunnery skill is where you start counting from. So if I need to shoot this mech, well, we'll just say he jumped for 5. He ran. So since he is shooting, he has his 4 gunnery skill. Then you have to worry about his jump of 5, which is plus 3. All right, we'll start this over. His gunnery skill is 4. He ran. That is 6. Intervening terrain, 7. His movement, a jump of 5, would bring us to 10. And if we happen to be at medium range, that would be 12s to hit. If you're in short range, that would be 10s to hit, and kind of tough.
Ranges. We never talked about what ranges do to firing.
Okay, so short range is short range. Oh, it's on the sheet. The short range is the gunnery skill. There's no pluses for short range. Once you get to medium range, it's plus 2. At long range, it's an additional +2. So it's +2 +4.
And there are maximum numbers. Those numbers for long range are the maximum that weapon can fire at.
Indeed. There are some weapons have minimum ranges.
None on that sheet.
Not on that sheet. I'm not going to bother looking for it. LRMs are infamous, as Intersphere LRMs have a minimum range of 6 and a short range of 7. So it is very difficult to get into short range with LRMs and not have the pluses from being in minimum range. Particle cannons, not ER PPCs, but PPCs have a minimum range of 3. That means if you are right face-to-face, that's +3 to hit. Right? And with LRMs, that would be +6 to hit.
So it's a +1 for every number they're inside.
So you have a particle cannon, 1, 2, 3. Anybody in here is in minimum ranges. That would be +1, +2, and +3. Heck, we've got weapons covered, gunnery covered, ranges covered. Terrain features are covered. Mechs range from 15 to 100 tons, but most players don't play 15-ton mechs because it's almost impossible to build one that'll survive a medium laser.
It's impossible to build one that has more than one medium laser.
I can't think of anything else at the moment. Yeah, we tried to do this once before, and it was kind of a disaster. The overhead camera makes it very difficult to actually see anything. So we're trying it. Anyways, this is H&G Adventures, and have a great day. Button on top will shut it off.